Hi everyone, I'm
Dying.
Yeah, sick. All right. Hi everyone, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Ethan.
And welcome to Game on Board Game, a channel where we talk about board games and do fun games and challenges based on our love for them.
We're back for another monthly gaming recap.
Yes.
And as you can probably tell from our voices, we're both kind of under the weather here.
Yes.
So it's been a rough week, but we're here, we're doing it, and we're excited.
Yeah.
What this is, again, if you haven't watched, we did a video earlier at the beginning of this year about a year-long challenge that we're doing throughout 2025 to try to play our entire board game collection. So as part of that, we're kind of keeping tabs on ourselves, letting you guys know where we're at by filming these monthly recap videos where we talk about, what we've accomplished towards that goal so far. We did a January one, obviously. Now February's through, and we're going to talk about the games that we played, just kind of give you a quick little snapshot of our thoughts about the experience and, not a major overview of like how to play the game or in-depth
review or anything.
Yeah, nothing like that.
Just kind of our takeaway and how we felt about it.
Yep, whatever kind of tangents come to mind that we just want to talk about with these games.
So a little caveat about February. So honestly, we did okay, but we kind of struggled in February. I was gone on vacation for a week, and then I got sick when I got back, and then I got him sick. So February was a little bit lighter. Also, it's a shorter month, but we're hoping to kind of come back full blast in March and make up for it a little bit.
Yeah, it was lighter in terms of quantity, but also in terms of complexity of the games. We did some easier ones as well that were quick to get to the table and just, not a lot of rules overhead or anything like that.
Yeah, just kind of did fun, light games that we just enjoy pulling out.
But yeah, we're excited about March. We have a couple games days with friends planned already.
Yep.
Also, we're planning to participate in the Foster the Game-a-thon. If you don't watch Jeff and Jamie over at Foster the Meeple, you should go check them out. They're putting on a 24-hour stream of playing nonstop board games on the weekend of the 22nd and 23rd that we're very much looking forward to, and we're going to bust plenty of them out that weekend.
Yes, we've participated in the past, and it's super fun.
So, overview. How many games did we actually play in February? 8. So, obviously, like we said, kind of low. Definitely a lot less than last month. In fact, actually, half of last month, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure January we had 16, so 8, we did 50%.
Right. Well, we got ourselves some leeway then.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
In our overview of the challenge, we talked about that for the size of our collection, our goal for each month, or at least sort of an average to shoot for to keep us on pace, is 11 or 12 games. Mm-hmm. So if you average these two these 2 months out, we're still slightly above that pace that we need to be.
Yeah, we're doing okay. So now that we kind of have an overview of sort of how February went in general, we're going to actually dive in and start talking about the games. So do you want to start on your side? Or
No, let's start with that one.
Okay. This one?
Yep.
Okay.
I think this was one of the first ones we played in the month, actually, too.
Yes, it was, yeah.
So trekking through history.
Essentially what you're doing is you're building timelines. So there will be a bunch of cards laid out, and you have to try to grab cards that will give you resources, and you're trying to make a pattern to create on the little board that you have to get as many points as you possibly can.
There's a drafting element.
Yep.
And sort of set collection / resource management type thing, because different cards will give you different colored resources towards points and towards your goals.
Yep, and the idea is that you're traveling through history. So you're going on a vacation, and you say fly with the Wright brothers in 1903, or do different things throughout history.
So an educational game.
Yeah, it is. And then also all of the cards have flavor text on the back and tell you about each of those, which is really neat as well. This is one that we actually got recently-ish. It was not super long ago. I think
we can't keep saying that
year.
for everything because time is passing,
Sure.
But we got this for Ashley's birthday, which is in August.
Yeah.
So we've had it about 6 months.
Within the last year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And this was not our first time playing it. We have played it before this, but...
No, we've probably played it 5 times at most total.
I mean, that's pretty good. That's higher than some of our other games.
Sure, that's not what I'm saying, but that's just where we're at. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
But this is actually it's fairly quick. It's pretty easy and light. It's nice to pull out. And
it's This is a family weight game, basically. As far as like real like hobby board games go, and for me, that means it's sort of like replacement level. Like I'm not like so enthralled with it or anything, but it is a perfectly good experience when you're playing it.
You liked it a lot more this last time. Like it's been growing on you every time we play, I feel like.
Yeah, like when we're playing it, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's very good for what it is. I'm not saying that as a way to discredit it or anything, but it's just like, I'm not going to be dying to pull this one out or anything. But
I'm sure you did suggest this one.
I've tried to be playing a lot of our more recently new ones just to kind of keep it more top of mind.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will give this a lot of credit for is the production.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's just beautiful. It has like a neoprene mat that you roll out for all of the cards and for tracking all of the points. All of the different pieces are like actually organized in an organizer with like different slots for each of them. Amazing
insert in the box. And
amazing insert. And it's just, honestly, like when games are like that, it's so much easier to pull them out and play them because you just pull the pieces out and it's there for you, right?
It's got cool tokens, high quality cards, and player boards and everything like that, without being too over the top either. Yes. And honestly, maybe it's a little over the top. Like it has these pretty large like clock, like timepiece kind of tokens that you use to determine player order. That like that's a bit much, and it has a bit of like, okay, they were going for some table spectacle, something to catch your eye a little bit when it's like set up.
Which it does.
Yeah.
I like it. It looks very pretty.
But overall, like for, I don't know, probably a $30 or $40 like family oriented type of game or whatever, like stellar production. Absolutely.
Yeah. I also think like this is one that we've kind of played a couple times and we're still kind of working on strategy for it. Like as far as, so what you want to do is sort of build your like timeline, and as soon as you have to like go past a time that you already visited, you have to restart. So we were kind of like last time that we played it, which I've never done this before, but I had, I think, only 2 timelines. Mm-hmm. Normally I've had like 5 or 6 of them. And normally it just doesn't work out that way where I can't do that, but I think I like didn't end up winning, right? Or did I win this one?
I don't remember.
But I think because like I didn't cut it up more, like I maybe would have had more points if I had cut it up more. So I feel like we're still kind of getting the strategy down on this too.
It's funny you say that because when we first started playing, I primarily focused on like not trying to break up my timelines, potentially at the expense of like getting more points on my board from the resources.
Sure.
And like I felt like that paid off quite a bit, and this time I didn't worry about it as much, and you really did.
Yeah.
So I'd be surprised if you didn't win again, I guess, because that just seems like a good go-to to me. But
you should pull out your book actually and talk about who won each of these games.
Ashley had a good month. We'll just say that.
Ashley did have a good month.
Anything else about trekking?
I don't think so. It's a good game. We really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's fun to pull up.
What do you want to talk about next?
Let's do this one.
Okay. Wingspan, certified modern classic.
Yes.
Right? Stonemeyer game, available in Targets and Walmarts and every kind of store like that.
Yeah.
So probably something you've all played before and are very familiar with. They've also been doing recent other games within that expansion line. Wingspan and now Finspan. Mm-hmm. This game has a million different expansions as well. Honestly, we don't have any of those. We were kind of latecomers to the Wingspan party.
We were super latecomers. We tried it for the first time last year.
Yep.
I think
about exactly a year ago.
Yeah, around this time last year.
And that was only because we found out that we could rent it from our local library.
Yes. And we were like, hey, we've never tried it. Why don't we try it?
Yeah, weirdly, like none of the friends that we game with had ever like pulled it out for us or anything before either. So
yeah.
But Ashley got taken with it immediately. Right?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it right away, and I have also played it solo, and I enjoy it solo as well. I think the Automa version of it is pretty good. It's a great game. You're essentially like, you have 3 different like rows of options of different things to do. You can play birds, you can lay eggs, and you can draw more cards. And the idea is that you want to, collect as many birds as you can and lay eggs on them, so that way you get the most points possible. And whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. It's a fun and enjoyable
I don't know
game.
what else we can really add to say more about Wingspan that people haven't said before. I like it as well. I mean, not as much as Ashley, but like I'm positive on it for sure. And I think that as far as a sort of gateway, very popular, like ambassador to the hobby type of game for a lot of people, like it's by all means, like I'm proud for this to be what they're experiencing.
Yeah. I think so we just play it, the two of us. We did play it at 6 players before, and that was a nightmare. Not because of the people we were playing it with, but it just took forever. Yeah. And we had a lot of different expansions, and we actually split our table in half to make it faster too, but it still just took a really long time. I'd be interested if we played it even at I don't think we've even played it at 3 or 4 player before. Mm-hmm. But I do really enjoy it at 2 player. I think that it's snappy and fast enough at 2 player.
Well, you and I have really honed it in. Yeah. We can knock out a game of Wingspan in 25 minutes.
Right. Yeah, we've gotten pretty quick at it. How do you feel about the other 2? Are you interested in trying Wormspan or Finspan?
Not particularly. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to playing them. Mm-hmm. But I always kind of take the approach with games that I don't want just more of the same. I'm not give me extra of this thing that I like. I'm give me more variety.
Yes, he very much is.
Yeah. And I get the sense that okay, these are different, so that is variety. Yeah. Right? But more so than that, right? I would much rather just play a completely different style of game than play something that's
more Wingspan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's also not big on expansions for the same reason, so I definitely am. But he's not as much. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think I would play the other 2 for sure. I would be 100% up for that if we had someone available that had it. I've also heard some good things about Finspan, if it's kind of the middle ground between Wormspan and Wingspan. We talked about, because Wormspan was out when we bought Wingspan, should we just go for Wormspan instead? And
we hadn't actually tried that one yet, though.
Yeah, so. We hadn't tried it, but we also just kind of wanted to be you know what, let's stick with the pure form of it, at least to own. So, yeah. So I think we would try it.
A difference between us, again, that ties into that is one approach that I would be willing to take is try all 3 of them, decide which one we like best, sure, and that's the one that we have. Yeah. But you wouldn't want to do that, right? You would want to get them and then have them all as well, probably, or maybe not all of them, but when we were talking about this or Wormspan, you were why not both? You know? Yeah. And I was no, you got to pick one or the other because, again, same thing. They're going to be too similar. I don't want that. But if you were willing to potentially say, okay, we tried Wormspan and it is better, so let's call Wingspan, I'd be fine with that. And that's the one that we lock in on potentially.
Yeah, he's always trying to get me to call games, and I'm not about that life. So yeah. I am a true collector. He is I want to refine everything.
Correct.
And have it be the best collection possible.
I'm gamifying it.
Yeah, this is
streamlined.
This is marriage struggles right here.
All right. Good on Wingspan?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Why don't we do one from your pile?
Sure. Let's do a smaller one here.
Sure.
So this is Botanik. Mm-hmm. This is a 2-player specific game that's themed around sort of a steampunk scientist. I don't know.
And plants.
It's just cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
You're basically drafting tiles from this kind of center pile and then placing them onto connecting pipeline grids in your own personal tableau, trying to score points based on how long of a single color connection you can make, as well as how many of these sort of flower symbols you can get on the tiles that you draft. Mm-hmm. Pretty straightforward, but it's got good strategy depth. And honestly, I think this is a really good game that I never hear people talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know how you first found out about it, Ashley, but I think literally out of the YouTubers I watch, the only ones I can remember ever mentioning it are Billy and Michelle from Second Star to the Left. Check them out if you haven't seen it. I think they're both pretty big fans of this game, or at least Michelle is, and that's great to see because, yeah, to me, if you watched our previous January video, I mentioned that I don't always love small box games. Mm-hmm. I'm a little biased against that, I think, just because I tend to like more of a substantial experience when we're sitting down to game. But this is one of our small box games that would be top tier to me.
Yeah, it's a really great one.
Yeah.
We both really enjoy Botanik. Ethan's not great at it. I don't know if he's ever beat me, maybe once.
Yeah, I rarely, if ever, win, but I don't think that means that I'm not great at it.
Sure.
One of the reasons that I really like it so much is because I feel like we are actually very evenly footed.
Sure. Yeah.
And that it's something where, as we've played this game over time, we've both kind of come up together at an equal rate. And so now it's really fun when we're playing against each other because we're each thinking 3 levels deep about everything that's happening.
Yeah.
We're also when a certain tile comes out, we both see the ramifications of should you take that or not, or should you leave it for me, and where are we going to put it, and all these sorts of things. And there's just a lot of depth that's happening. We're each 3 steps ahead and stuff. And
yeah, we're also perfect. Trying to you have to choose what's good for what you have in front of you, but also you kind of want to block the other person. So
yeah. There's a mean hate draft element to this game as well, but it's just baked into the mechanics so much that it doesn't ever feel mean.
Yeah,
it's just that's how you have to play.
You also in the center where the tiles are, you're not just grabbing tiles, but you're releasing tiles for the other person and yourself. So you can choose which tiles you're releasing and the timing of when those are getting released. And depending on what you put down, you might release something for yourself and not for your opponent. So yeah, I mean, I love this game. I think it's super fun. Awesome. I also we both generally when we're playing games, it's the 2 of us, right? So yes. I love 2-player games that are meant to be 2-player and are really, really set up for 2-player, and this one definitely does that for sure.
Yeah, and it's small, it's quick to set up, doesn't take super long, but again, a lot of thought goes into it. We have a lot of games that feel just very us games, and that can mean different things. Sometimes it's just, I don't know, because it's a theme that really speaks to us, or we have a lot of nostalgia for early when we were dating and playing a game together. This is one in the sense that I just can't imagine playing it against anyone besides you. Because we are such good opponents for each other. If I was trying to show this to one of my friends who had never played it before, maybe somebody who's not a big gamer, I would just destroy them, because they haven't had that chance to rise through the ranks of learning the levels of the strategy and stuff, right? And it just wouldn't be the same kind of experience.
I do think strategy wise, if you or I are playing against somebody, it's difficult, not difficult, but we kind of have
not
that
we're masters
standard.
Of the game either or anything, but
yeah, but we also my nephew who's 7, we've actually had him play it with us before, and the concept of it is not that hard to understand. You're trying to match up colors and you're trying to connect the pipes, so it's actually not that hard of a game. It's one of those games that's easy to learn, hard to master, and I think we really enjoy that type of game too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of similar to Wingspan, we have another modern classic here that's a gateway game for a lot of gamers, Azul. We have specifically the stained glass of Sintra version, which is a cool theme because, you're working off of stained glass. Honestly, it's kind of like Sagrada, which we talked about last month a little bit in that sense, right?
Yeah.
But how do we feel about Azul?
So we've actually never played base Azul.
Yes.
Which I don't think they're that different, but I like the coloring of this one more, kind of like you said, and I like the stained glass aspect of it. But I really like it. It's fun, it's quick, it's easy. It can be mean, but I feel like people sometimes talk about Azul being really mean, and it doesn't feel like that mean of a game to me. It just feels like, we could play it at the coffee table, just kind of pull it out and play, and, it's an easy grab. And I enjoy, trying to make the different patterns and put together the different colors and get them to time correctly so that way you get the most points. I think it's very puzzly, and I love puzzly type games. What about you?
Well, so I do want to talk about the way this is different from the base game.
Sure.
In that, I'm pretty sure you just have sort of a grid with different, columns and rows that you're trying to get the tiles into to match up color-wise and stuff, and basically get as many as you can in a row to score points for that. Whereas this one, the boards are actually variable in the sense that there are these sort of rectangular cardboard pieces that you slot in from the top.
Right.
And you want to try to fill only as a column.
Right.
And when you do, it actually flips over. And then if you fill it a second time with the secondary selection of colors that are on the backside, it gets removed, and you can potentially have a gap in your board. But there's also an aspect where there's sort of a meeple or a player piece that always resets to the farthest right column that you've just tried to fill. Mm-hmm. So occasionally you'll have to basically take a turn off in order to move your meeple back to the beginning and gain access to some of those earlier rows to start working on them again.
Yeah, so just try to time that correctly.
Yeah, so you mentioned like the timing part of it, right? I honestly kind of wish that we had gone with base Azul and that was our like version that we got acclimated to, just because so many other people do know that version is sort of the default, and I think that could be good. Like when we're trying to play with other people or introduce new people to the hobby and stuff like that we just had that sort of baseline as a go-to. We picked this one, I don't know, just because it seemed a little bit cooler or whatever. Yeah. We haven't tried any of the other options either, like the chocolate one or the summer pavilion or anything like that. Again, I don't really want more of the same, so I wouldn't be super interested in trying those versus this.
Well, and I enjoy...
I have no reason to think that like this is the best one or something, you know, like I have no basic comparison. This is just the one that we have and the one that we play because of that. So.
Yeah. I would also say like something like Azul, I don't feel the need to have multiple versions of. Yeah. Like there are certain games, like I wouldn't mind having Wormspan and Finspan and, you know, being able to play those too and kind of add some variety because they feel different enough to me. Having different versions of Azul just would feel too samey to me.
So this is, I think people typically refer to it as like an abstract game, and that's not usually your like favorite type of thing anyway, right? So that makes sense to me. Like you're not a go-to like abstract gamer. It's probably more my thing, if anything. And so I like Azul like just fine, but I wouldn't say that it's like one of my favorites from that genre either. Like again, even last month we talked about Sagrada. I think I prefer Sagrada.
I
prefer some things like Splendor or you know whatever else, but but Azul is still really good. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I guess check out the stained glass version if you haven't. I do think the different like customizable boards and how they can kind of come up like randomized and change throughout the course of the game is a cool twist.
Yeah. I would also guess the breaking glass thing is different too because it's the stained glass.
You can drop tiles on the floor in regular Azul as well.
Is it the same with like how many points you lose?
I'm not sure.
There's like a huge repercussion in this one.
That's a good one. This is like a definitive like B-tier game, I think, right?
Yeah, you know? It's a good game.
Yeah, not great, but nothing bad to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do one of the small ones again.
How about this one?
Okay. Hold it up a little just to make sure.
Okay. So we played Sushi Go. I love Sushi Go. Like, I just really enjoyed that one. And, like, Ethan he's just not a fan.
Not a fan.
Yeah. So the idea
everything I just said about Botanik as a small box game, this is the opposite. Yeah. This is the definitive why I don't care about small box games.
So this one, like, the idea is that it's like set collection, essentially, and they're different.
It's entirely drafting.
Yeah. And it's drafting.
3 rounds.
So, like, on your turn, you start with a set of 10 cards, and you choose a card to put down for your set. And then you flip the card over at the same time as the person next to you, and then you pass that set of that hand to the next person. If you're playing with a lot of people, it can be really interesting because, like, it's harder to remember what the cards are. When we play just the two of us, it's easier to remember, but it's also easier to steal from each other because of that, because we can really watch like what that person's going for and steal from each other.
And we've played it with a bigger group at least once or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not any better. I would say it's fun. He does not like this one. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I know there's Sushi Go Party, right? And I think that they really do build that as sort of a party game, very intro level, like super light, and yeah, that's what it is.
Sure.
I guess since it is just the two of us and we're often like really hard tracking, you know, what cards are coming back and forth, I think the biggest deciding factor for the game is just who's going to go for the triple set of, what is it, sashimi?
Sashimi.
Yeah. That's like a big score, and there's usually not enough of those cards in only 2 hands for both people to get it.
Yep.
So it's just who's going to be able to get it, and if there's like a questionable, if you get your opening hand and you only see like 1 or 2, so you don't know if you're actually going to make it, that's like, well, do you take the risk and go for it, or do you not? And it's 50-50, and whoever gets it.
Especially because we're
that's
like
what it comes down
pretty
to.
mean to each other about it. So yeah.
The puddings also aren't as big of a deal in like 2-player because it's very easy to like either keep it like totally evenly paced between the two or have one person just like stack up on all of them. and then the other one just doesn't worry about it, and they can draft better things for more points.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that like one person's going to get it and one person's not, so there's not as much of a competition over it. So it's like you can kind of just sacrifice one person.
The art's cute.
Yeah.
Ashley does love sushi.
Yes, I do love sushi.
I like sushi, okay.
Yeah.
But,
he's just not a fan.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's fast. It's quick, easy to pull out. And it's also, like, a good one that you can play with other people.
It's not bad. I would never take it, like, away from somebody who does like it. I can, again, see that it would have a place in a lot of people's collections for a quick, light, easy game that you can play with literally anyone, pretty much. But it's probably, honestly, one of my least favorite games that we have.
That's fine.
So last month we talked a lot about button shy games. Check that out. But they're these small wallet games that contain 18 cards in all sorts of a variety of different styles of games. This one is Tides, which I think you can play at 1 or 2 players.
Yes.
We did it at 2 this time. And how would you describe this?
So the idea of this is that you're like collecting seashells and different like sticks and things along the beach, and then you're trying to make different
Stones
like jewelry
and
with
coral
it.
And
and you're trying to make like jewelry with it. So it's really interesting because like there's a low tide and a high tide, and so it actually like does feel like you're literally experiencing like the ocean changing tides, which is kind of cool. So you start with like low tide, which is where you're collecting all of the different objects on the beach, and then the cards flip over to high tide, and the entire like row of cards in front of you flips, and then you can either like on your turn for either way, either like high tide or low tide, you either play down like and score your objects, or you just collect a card. So collecting a card could be one that's a scorecard for your hand, and you have to have one in your hand in order to be able to score. Or it's just collecting more objects on the beach, but you can only have up to, I think it's 6 cards. And then you have to play something.
The, like, what you just said, that's really the trick to it, is like having to match the scorecard that's in your hand.
Yes.
Because this is basically, again, just a set collection game. But you're trying to collect towards something that you might not know at the time.
Right.
Or that is like a very, very limited resources that you're like trying.
Or we're both competing over.
Yeah.
We're both trying to get them.
Yep.
Yeah. I really enjoy this. Yeah, it's fast.
Yeah. It's one that I can never seem to remember how it works, even though it's not like we never pull it out or anything, but there's just something about, I don't know, the 2 sides of the cards or the scoring system.
I think that's really interesting, is that the cards do like flip. The ones in your hand stay whichever way you picked it up, which is also interesting. So the ones like on the table are going to flip, but the ones in your hand do not flip. They stay the way that they were in the first place. I mean, we've played a lot of button shies. I would actually say this is probably one of my favorite ones. I really enjoy this one. I've played it with Ethan, and I've played it with like a colleague at work. We played it on an airplane before.
It'd be in the middle
really
for me,
it.
And I haven't played as many as you either. But like to me, I feel like there's kind of like a big 3 at the top, and then this would probably be like very high into the like the next tier of them.
Sure.
My favorite thing about it is though, on the backs of the cards there are some where it's essentially the same types of resources, but if you can score it during high tide with extra copies of those resources, you'll get more points. But if it's low tide with less copies, it's for less points. But there's some where it's literally better to score them in low tide, or at the very least, it's a completely different type of resource.
Yeah.
And so the fact that there's like options where it's like, yeah, just get more of this, or options where you need something completely different depending on which phase of the game it is, like that's what makes it really interesting.
Yeah. I really enjoy that aspect of it. And just, like you said, kind of like when you have to build it without knowing what you have, right?
Well, you kind of need to time when you're taking which types of the cards, whether you're taking them for resources or whether you're taking them for scoring.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to end up with.
2 actions in low tide and 1 in high tide. So, yeah, timing is just really crucial in this game.
Yep.
And you play to, I think it's 50 points.
Sounds right.
Whoever gets to 50 points wins. So, yeah. I mean, Tides is a fun one. It's, like I said, it's light. It's pretty easy, and it's just, I don't know, I find it relaxing. I also love like ocean and water stuff, so
yeah,
the theme grabs me too, I think.
I'm sure that's why you picked it up, is
Yeah, I think initially that was why, but I was like, oh, we're collecting things on the beach. Okay, sure, that sounds great.
Check out some button size stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, we're down to our last two here. So what are we going to say for last? So this is Pandemic, one of the many versions out there, the Reign of Cthulhu version. So Lovecraftian themed.
So we have played base Pandemic. We don't own base Pandemic. And we've played season 1, and we're actually playing season 2 right now.
For the legacy versions.
Yeah. Yes, sorry, legacy versions, yep. And I think that this is my favorite version, honestly. I just really, really enjoy this one. The first time I played it, I really enjoyed it.
The legacy?
I like the legacy. It just feels like such a different experience.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
But the theme really grabs me in this one, and I just love the coloring and like you're trying to like battle against Cthulhu essentially, and like Cthulhu's gonna.
I wouldn't say it feels like you're battling against him, but.
Well, you're trying to like get through your objectives and like save each of the towns before like Cthulhu comes and ends the world essentially.
Yeah, I think that as far as the different sorts of themes that you could skin onto Pandemic, this one fits really well.
Yeah.
Because we haven't actually played like Eldritch Horror or anything like that either, but I know that in that game, a big part of it is you're like traveling around the world and trying to basically like seal off portals so that like ancient ones aren't coming through from different cosmic dimensions and stuff. And that's what Pandemic is, instead of like managing illnesses and disease, managing like cultists and whether they're able to open up one of these portals.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I love like.
It just blends in very naturally. Yeah.
He loves playing Arkham Horror. I've played Arkham Horror. So yeah, I think this one just kind of speaks to us.
It was a very early game for us as well. Maybe not actually as early as I'm thinking, but it feels like one that we've always had, and certainly one of our like most played games because it is like pretty quick and easy to get out and stuff as well. Yeah. And we love co-op stuff. I
think some games you just get good at it and you just always beat the game, but that is not the case with this. We definitely like the game beats us, fairly frequently. I would say we have probably maybe a better track record of beating it, but we can also amp up the difficulty if we want to. But even playing on like the normal level, we have definitely gotten beat. So I do appreciate when like that, a game doesn't just feel like, okay, well, I've played it enough times, I'm always going to beat it.
Definitely.
So I appreciate that about this.
Yeah. Sometimes you can kind of tell early on in the game whether it's going to be like really tense or not. Right. Sometimes you do just kind of run away with it. Sometimes you get totally smushed though.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is maybe a detraction is there are like different characters that each have like a slightly different ability. I wouldn't say so much as like asymmetric player powers or anything like that, but just like one little sort of twist that you get to put on as like a special action. And we found that there are definitely a couple of those that are like the all-stars.
Way more powerful, yeah.
Yeah, so they're pretty imbalanced as far as like how useful they actually are.
That's true.
And if you're supposed to randomly select them, which we usually do every once in a while, we'll like pick the one that we want. But if you randomly select one of the good ones, you have a much better chance of like beating the game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. I also like, even...
It'd be nice if those were a little more evened out.
Just the theming of like, if you... lose your sanity on your person, then you go insane, which is also like an Arkham Horror thing.
Yep.
So I think that like the theme just really, really comes through on this one, so I really appreciate that about it.
It is really great looking.
It is, yeah. It's a beautiful production. And I also like the insert for it is great. It has spaces for everything and organizes it really well for us, so it's one that like, again, you can just pull out and play.
Yeah.
Because they make it easy.
I'm appreciating the Shoggoth or Shoggoth minis in here as well.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know. As we've played this over the years and I've gotten more into Arkham Horror and by extension more into Lovecraft and like read a lot of those stories and everything, it's fun for me to just like get more out of it these days as well. Like you randomly shuffle up and lay out a row of different like Ancient One cards that are flipped face down, and as like the crisis escalates, more of them will flip face up and make it harder and harder. And like now at least like 75%, I was like, I know these people.
Yeah.
Not these people, but like I recognize these names,
Right.
Versus and sometimes their ability, what they do actually feels a little thematic to their whole shtick in the Lovecraft saga stuff as well. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, we really
a classic
like that
for
one.
us. maybe not as great for everybody, but it's just another game that we have like a lot of nostalgia for, and still hits the table like pretty regularly, even though it's been in the collection so long.
Yeah, and I mean, I have played like normal Pandemic. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I love this one. Like, I just really enjoy it.
Yeah, the horror thing is it speaks to you.
Yeah, it totally does.
Okay.
All right, last one.
I would say save the best for last.
Yeah, we did.
So, Paleo.
Yes.
This is a game obviously set, as you can tell from the cover, in sort of a Paleolithic Stone Age era. Mm-hmm. You are, early human beings, Homo sapiens, trying to, fend off the dangers of a frozen tundra wasteland, mammoths and other creatures, trying to get food, gather resources, stuff like that.
Yeah. And the objective is that you want to paint a cave painting. So you need
That's true. I was going to say the objectives actually change, but yeah, ultimately they do come down to just how are you going to achieve
that cave
getting
painting.
The pieces for the cave painting. That's true. This is a co-op game, but it just feels so different and unique from any other co-op game that we've played. And I don't know why that is exactly, but it's just like I really love, for as many of them as we tried, like this one just stands out for some reason.
Yeah.
This is probably, like, out of the 2 months we've done so far, like maybe my favorite game.
Yeah, we also played it like more than once, and we were both like, we really need to play that again. As soon as we stopped, we were really excited about it.
This was the first time we played it with the expansion.
Yeah, a new beginning.
Correct, yeah.
Yep. So that has where you're kind of like have a farming aspect to it too, and you're like actually domesticating animals.
Slightly more evolved humanity at that point.
We're kind of moving along in the time frame.
But the way that this works is it's not a campaign game necessarily. There's no narrative element to it really, but there are these different modules that you can combine in different ways in order to kind of create scenarios that you're going to play through. And the book, the rules that come with the base game give you, I think, 7 recommended module pairings, which we played through each of those.
And they do have like a theme to them. Like I know there's one that's like you're fighting wolves and
they work together, but you're not really like reading like
to flavor.
Maybe there's a couple sentence blurb or something or whatever, but it's not like a campaign story driven type of game, even though it is like scenario based. Yeah. And I don't know how many of those A New Beginning has, but you can combine them in ways beyond the recommendations as well, which we haven't gotten around to doing yet, but we have played through all of the base 7 and now at least 1 or 2 of A New Beginning. I think we played them multiple times until we beat them all. So
some of them have been really, really difficult to beat too. So
some of them use like 3 modules versus just like 2, and so like there's extra objectives you have to achieve for that and stuff. Yeah.
So the way we play the game is you have like cavemen essentially. So you have like characters that you play, and you get like they have so much health in front of them, and they have some sort of tool or spear or something that's going to help you to like fight against the things that are coming up in the world against you. So you deal out, because we play it 2-player, you deal out literally half the deck to each of us. But the deck that you create is composed of like different items that you can get, that you can craft. It's also like different dangers. There's like wounds that can happen. And as you are taking your turn, you both you get to see the back side of the card. So you don't get to see the front side, but you get to see the back side of the card. And the back side of the card, depending on what it looks like, so if it's like a rock scene or like a mountain scene, that has generally certain actions on it, but sometimes they surprise you and there's like a really terrible thing on the other side. So you have to kind of time out, and you can only look at the top 3 cards at a time. So you have to time out like which card to play when, and some of them
you try to sync up with your partner.
Yeah, some of them require that you get help, and some cards give you the ability to help each other.
That's where the co-op aspect comes in, because you would not have enough like resources or power on just like your own team of like cavemen people to really accomplish anything. Yeah. And in fact, honestly, at the beginning of this game, even with help, it's still pretty hard to accomplish anything. Yeah. So when you do, it feels like a big win. Yes. But it's not a typical engine builder in any sense, but it has that same sort of feeling of gaining strength and progress over the course of the game, so that you can accomplish more, and there's a bit of a snowball effect to that until eventually you win and you get there.
Yeah.
But it's a slow grind, especially at the beginning, kind of like an exponential curve.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's generally like different objectives you have to get, but also each round you have to feed your people or they starve to death and they die. And so you get like skulls. So yeah, it's so interesting. It's very, very different. You're kind of developing tools, but you don't want to do that so much that you're like not able to feed your people and not able to achieve the objectives. And you have to try to get the cave paintings, but those are usually very difficult to get. And there's like, I think there's 5 or 6 pieces to it. So you have to like put together each piece at a time and find the right cards that will allow you to do that. And then try to remember how do you beat it the next time around when you go to play that type of card again.
The reason I love it is, 1, it feels very unique and interesting, but 2, it's just really fun.
Yes.
Actually. There's some element to the looking at the backs of the 3 cards, picking one, not at random, but where you only sort of have a
rough idea of what it is.
Yeah, an inkling of what might come up. But then sometimes, like Ashley mentioned, it ends up being a danger that you didn't see coming at all, and it totally throws you for the loop or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And when that happens, it feels like, come on.
Yeah.
And even though it's like negative, it's still like, that's fun. But when it comes together and you two pick a card that actually synergizes and you're able to help and you do accomplish something and you like get a little bit more, strength like tweaked up or whatever for like the next cycle through the deck and stuff, like that just, it feels so good.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like, it's kind of like gambling, honestly, where like every single like 10 seconds that you're picking a different card, there's a rush to it.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to come.
It's funny too because like sometimes there's like wound cards, and if you don't deal with the wound, you have to take a wound onto your person. So we'll be like, okay, I have a wound card coming up. You don't have any wound cards coming up. Why don't you help me deal with mine? Yeah. But then sometimes they're just so bad that they're like, I guess I'm taking a wound anyway. Like it doesn't matter. Sometimes it does work out and we can help each other, or like he flips a card and his card's worse than my card. So
yeah, an example of a wound would be like you come across a woolly mammoth, right? And sometimes maybe you can just like escape from it like unharmed and run away and not get any benefit but not get anything bad. But a lot of times it's like you can't run and it's going to hit you and it's going to attack you and you're going to take a wound. So
yeah.
This game has a pretty over-the-top production.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know if you can really see it here, but there's sort of like this standee thing that you have to assemble out of cardboard that like only half fits in the box. So it's like every time you pull it out, you got to like put it together a little bit, and it like holds these different tool cards that you gain access to. It doesn't need that. Again, it's just like table presence flash stuff that honestly makes it harder to put the game away and organized, if anything. Like that's a bigger annoyance to me than it is like a coolness factor personally.
I like it, but there's also like in the new one, there's like a little like hut thing.
Yes, you put like a roof on your hut.
That you put a roof on. That kind
of reminds me of like Robinson Crusoe of trying to like build your shelter or something, Like once you have your roof on, you're like good to go.
Yeah. There's like a graveyard too, like an elephant graveyard. And then even just like the pieces, like there's like, I call them chickens. They're like food.
The food tokens.
The food tokens. There's like stones and sticks.
Those are nice.
Those are really cool.
I do love, a nice quality resource token.
Yeah.
But like the extra pomp and circumstance or whatever, and especially the fact that, like I say, it just doesn't fit in the box good. This game needs an insert.
It does need an insert.
Especially because there are so many different types of cards. And when you're like setting up the game and putting the different modules together, like if those are broken up in some way instead of just like in a big stack, that would be great. But other than that little hurdle to get over during the setup, this is one that I'm really happy whenever we get a chance to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one always just like, I feel like actually like, so I wanted this game initially, and I think it took me a little bit to come around to it.
I would agree. Yeah. Both of us though.
Yeah. But then like now that we have, we're just like, oh my gosh, it's so good.
If I recall, this is one that we kind of had a hard time learning.
Yeah.
I felt like there weren't a lot of good, clear resources about like what you're really supposed to be doing and how some of the like finer details work and stuff.
Yeah, I think we had quite a bit of a learning curve on this one.
But after eventually like getting it down and starting to see, this is how you do accomplish things, like, yeah.
And I think also just doing like a few different modules, like, and seeing how they play.
Yeah.
They're basically the same, but there is a little bit of a different aspect to them.
Yeah, no, it's definitely enough to feel like you're getting a varied experience out of it.
Yeah.
All right.
So
you get to go up top, Paleo.
Yeah, I do think that was our favorite.
Yeah. All right, well, that concludes our February recap. Again, not that many games to talk about compared to January, but that video ran pretty long, and we did say we'd try to keep it a little shorter this time, so not how I had imagined doing it, but I guess it worked out.
Yeah. As a little reminder as well, if you haven't seen our initial video that, we talked about what we were going to do for this yearly challenge, or if you haven't seen the January one, feel free to go back and watch those. We also have an Excel spreadsheet that we'll share in the comments as well, so that way you can go ahead and check and kind of watch as we're going to see like what games have we played and what month did we play them in.
Keep tabs on us throughout the course of March.
Yeah.
See if we're actually doing better or if we were just blowing smoke.
Another thing too, just to point out, is that we, on that spreadsheet, are only tracking like when we initially played that game. So like if we play Paleo again in March, we're not going to talk about it again in March. We're just, going to say, okay, here's the one that we played in March that are new, because we're talking about the ones from our collection. So I do think we actually played more games than this in March, or in February. But it's just, we're not talking about like how many plays of Paleo did we have or how many plays of Reign of Cthulhu.
That's making me think of something that I don't think we've actually talked about, but it's actually a really important point for this whole challenge, which is these are all physical plays as well.
Right.
Ashley and I are not really BGA users or, any sort of digital apps in general. But even if we were, we wouldn't count them towards this, because the whole point of this was like play your shelves. The idea is you have these games, in your home, on your shelves, taking up space, you've invested in them, use them, make sure you're kind of getting your value out of it, right? So,
yeah, exactly. Like I've played like Cascadia online, but we haven't counted that because that is not a physical play, and we haven't played our physical game of it.
That's just not our style as much, This is a great hobby because of, I think, it not being screen time. That's something I really like about it, and the social interaction when we get to play with friends and everything like that, so bear that in mind. I guess that anytime we're talking about we played this during the month, that means we took it out, set it up, got to see, when we talked about the different inserts and stuff, or the bad organization of certain games and stuff like that, all plays into our perception of it, because we're actually getting the full experience of owning the game and taking it out and setting it up. And
yeah, that's true.
Cool.
Good point. Thanks for watching.
Keep following along on this journey with us, please.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how we end up at the end of the year, but it's been very fun so far.
Yeah, comment, and let us know, what you thought, and have you played any of these games? Do you have a favorite of the ones that we have played, at least this month?
Yeah, let us know.
All right, we'll see you next time. Game on.
Game on.